Futures opened at 15,000 and spiked up to about 16,660 in like 5 minutes. So a $1,600 move, which basically retraced about half of its move and then been consolidating ever since. So futures are at 16,030, and we are looking at about 15,600 on Coinbase or GDAX. On the 4-hour chart, basically what we're looking at right now, you can see we've got quite a bit of volumes since we got into this consolidation after this first blow-off move. We've consolidated, so we've got a nice little volume node between just under 16,000, which is good. You like to have those volume shelves for support. So Asia market is just waking up. Usually that gives us some action. If we look on GDAX, we zoom way out, we do see there's a lot more on the buy side of things, although sell side's gotten a little bit better on the supply side. That might be just because the exchanges are trying to get more supply on, because they run thin when this thing starts to run. Bob, can I get a mic check?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
I was just listening to you.
All right.
So,
yeah, you can see we had that initial spike up on the 15-minute. Huge volume came in on that right when the markets opened, and now we're starting to resolve out of that with a kind of a grind higher here.
and looks like everything's settled down pretty much. All the alts too.
Yeah, alts we haven't seen any kind of inverted movement on alts yet, so there's market cap coming into the space, but not that they're outpacing Bitcoin, which is what we saw earlier in the year.
Yeah, we had some nice
Got a bunch of buying coming in right here. We just jumped up to 6. We're getting up to 15,700, which is where our next sell wall is. So that would be Asia. Asia gets pretty active around this time, and if they're going to be buying, this thing could move pretty quickly up. Well, we just don't know. We don't know what the side effects of, if any, with institutional flows. I mean, I expect institutional flows to go. I expect we'll see higher than average volume this week, is what I'm thinking. And I definitely think toward the end of the month, I mean, if you're a crypto fund, you've had your SEC filings, you're going to want to get established this year so that your year-over-year numbers look ridiculous. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, for sure. Because they're going to want to say that they were on board at 14, 15, 16,000, you know?
Right.
You know, and one thing to bear in mind too, Phil, is that, I mean, just for perspective for people, you know, all the analytical work that you've done and some of the guys in the room is that, you know, the expectation was 10,000 by January, pushing to 25,000 in 2018. So the fact that we hit, you know, I wouldn't even really call it 19,000 because the volume was so thin. The fact that we're solidly at 15, 16,000 is this is good. You know, it's just that things are happening faster than expectations. So consolidation is not a bad thing. You know, it's going to build support for the next ledge higher, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, so my initial reaction here is now we're pushing up on 15,700. So while we're broadcasting this, I'm gonna guess we're probably gonna see some pretty bullish. Yeah, now we're just plowing through supply. 15,731. So while we're broadcasting this, it might be one of those very bullish Asian sessions. But I do expect a lot more volume this week, and then even more next week as a CME futures, which I'll do a video next Sunday kind of outlining the details on that contract as well.
Yeah, and and then my charts and my technical is that it touched the top of the channel, Phil, and a bull flag
On the Bitcoin?
Yeah, on a daily. So I suspect that's going to resolve higher. And so, I mean, if you just looked at this chart and you just whited out what it was and asked somebody to explain to you, I mean, money flow is consistently in the 70s and 80s,
right?
And every time it dips, it's dipping higher, and so meaning selling's being bought up. So that bull flag breaks. You're looking at a move from 12 to 18, from 15 to 21.
Well, we're kind of getting that bull flag. Guys, what he means by bull flag is when you have a move up, and then like you have like this sagging flag kind of shape. Let me show you guys. Let's clone this. Okay, so roughly speaking, that's a bull flag. So this would be like your pole that comes up here. This is your pole, and then your flag. Now, when you're going up and then down like that, they call this a bull flag right in here. And so now what you're looking for is the break, and so that's what this is here, is that breakout. And then what you're looking for now is that what typically happens when you break out is you're going to break up, and then you're going to come back down, usually a backside test of that top of that flag, which was here. So we saw that beautifully, so now I would expect that's thrust number 1, then you're going to have thrust number 2, and then you'll have thrust number 3. That's usually how these things go. Not guaranteed, but that's a very technical way that plays out.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. And
this is very bullish. You could also even make a case for an inverted head and shoulders here, here, and here. And then if that's the case, well, that is the case. So then basically what you're looking for now is a break of this neckline somewhere around here. You had like kind of a false breakout there, but I wouldn't count that. A nice close above here now, guys, will take us into this smaller fib target of 16,540. I would expect that would be move number 2. Move number 3 I would expect to get us through this bear fib zone. And once we clear this 17,330, guys, I would expect this week that we're probably going to see north of 20,000, as crazy as that sounds. But it's all because I expect to see more volume. And as I showed you guys in the video earlier, when you look at the daily, excuse me here, let me bring up the daily chart. Now, if I go to a weekly on this, ignore the lines for a second, you notice this shaded area is the average volume, guys, and doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that now that once we entered into the kind of the crypto awakening of 2017, you had a market difference in volume. It's going up, and look at volume and price and see what they do. And guess what? More volume's coming into the market. So here we're seeing a very finite supply. So this is like the world's lowest float stock possible. And you're going to have basically trillions of dollars potentially coming into this. We're at 200 billion plus now on Bitcoin. And I suspect faster than anybody can possibly imagine we'll hit 1 trillion in market cap. But that's going to imply 6-figure Bitcoin. So the numbers and the math are all there, and they're all valid. It's not like we're just making up stupidly high numbers. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's all about purchase power parity. So pretty soon you're going to be...
Explain to them what that means.
It's what can one Bitcoin buy. And so the first hurdle that Bitcoin has overcome is that the price of Bitcoin, when it crossed 8,000, basically created a currency that gave you purchasing power prior to the Federal Reserve inception in 1913. Now it's pushing through because it's a worldwide currency. It's now pushing through all the debt of everything around the world. And that's what's going to lift it, up and over. Basically it's going to next equal the market cap of of gold that's held as currency reserve. And that's where Phil keeps getting the north of the $1 trillion number for Bitcoin as a market cap, because it's going to be the next reserve against currencies. And so, and you're already starting to see it. Venezuela has now adopted the blockchain. If you just set Bitcoin aside for a second, every government in the world now is going to be forced to get off this fractional reserve kind of approach. It's going to put a lot of sound money, momentum in play here. And so you're going to forget talking about, Bitcoin to dollars. It's going to be, what's going to Bitcoin buy me? Is it going to buy me a nice house? Like they always said, gold, an ounce of gold will buy you a man a fine suit. They're finding out what the Bitcoin is going to be equated to in terms of purchasing power. So, when it gets to 1 million, what's that really going to mean? And so it's going to try to find itself against gold, because that's really what it's compared with. It's digital gold in my view, because it's transportable, where gold is not, but it has all the same attributes that gold has in terms of scarcity and no liability partner and things of that nature. So that's what it's finding right now. Bitcoin is trying to find, its true price, and I think it's going to be, the Chinese and the U.S. and the Japanese and the Europeans. It's going to look at all that debt, and it's going to just say, what's my purchasing power, against those currencies as it wipes out its debt. And those guys everybody's leveraged, 90% to 10%. And so that's why, Bitcoin can go from, you hear people talking about 400,000, some guys out there, to 1 million, is because they're just doing simple division and saying the Bitcoin is going to be worth this, because that's what it's going to be able to purchase, keep you ahead of the game in terms of when hyperinflation comes. And make no mistake, all these fiat currencies are going to be hyperinflated away.
Guys, we got the GDAX depth chart up. Thanks, Bob. That's exactly right. It's an important concept to understand. But we've got the GDAX depth chart up, and buyers in Asia are out in force. They're just eating. We just ate through the 15,800 sell wall like it was nothing. I mean, it just got consumed. And so what you guys are seeing here, this is kind of like the raw. This is GDAX. This is one of many exchanges. Obviously, there's exchanges in Asia, but they all kind of keep pace with price. But what we saw there, guys, was a technical break. Now we see this trend line, and we popped up above it. So that's going to create. Usually, when you pop a trend line like we have here, you're going to see some pretty good buy volume come in, and then typically you'll probably back test this from above. So we may see that as this kind of transpires. But yeah. Lots of buy side pressure here. So
yeah, thanks, Phil. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
For people with the questions, is that we always put these videos out afterwards. We make them public. So what we do is we chop out all the dumb answers I give, and then we put it out. I'm kidding. We just turn it public right after we're done here. Oh, you already answered the question, Phil. Okay, good.
No, I think that's Sean or Becky.
Oh, we have an interloper. Okay.
Becky with the good hair. All right, so yeah, you're starting to see this nice push above this trend line, guys. So that's this is a 15-minute chart, and what I start looking for when we start doing this is you start see how that's starting to thin out on the bid ask. So that's we're gonna see it now. We just blew through 15,900. So they're gunning for 16,000. Supply gets real thin. What happens is the sellers see what's coming, and they'll possibly pull back their offers higher up because they see the bullish velocity. But right now, basically, you're looking at volatility from 850 to 950. It's very active though. This is a super active market. So we're back to kind of what we saw before last week's consolidation correction after that blow off top. And yeah, to me, this we'll probably, I wouldn't be surprised by the time Asia closes, which is about 5 hours from now, 6 hours from now. We're well into the 16,000s. It's typically when you see this kind of heavy buying activity, it just doesn't usually stop. We used to see Asia open and it would trade for 2-3 hours kind of bullishly, and then it would kind of taper off, and then London would pick it back up. Lately, what we've been seeing is it just runs all through the Asian session, just nonstop buying. So that's why I'm, saying with very high likelihood we could be, into the 16. But you can see here's a 16,000 wall coming up, and just a ton of buy orders just coming through. You notice too, it's not like super huge buy orders. A lot of these transactions are fractions of a Bitcoin. I don't know what the average size is. It's hard to gauge, but you got 0.5, 0.1, 0.05, 0.01. That's like retail. Unless somebody comes through and then you'll see this whole thing turn green. That might be somebody just hitting a large market order. But typically the larger sized orders would typically be worked. They'll try to set up a limit order, and you'll see that over here. Sometimes you'll see these sizes, they'll be like 50 Bitcoin. That's somebody trying to fill a large position. 50 Bitcoin is a huge position.
Yeah, and it looks like 15,600. We're building a volume ledge, Phil, too, on the 15-minute.
Yeah, if we look, plenty of volume there. We're breaking actually above that now. And then if we look on even the 4-hour, see this is starting to complete a head and shoulders. So typically on a head and shoulders, the technical measured move is the size of the head to like the shoulders. And I mean, you're open to interpretation somewhat on that, but like for me, roughly, this would mean that this move here, that's a 2,800 move, basically, roughly. So $2,800 more from here would be kind of what you would expect that to play out. So that's going to take us to, say we're at 16, 18, 800. It's going to get us back up to the highs.
Yeah, they'll definitely test that wick, don't you think, Phil?
The blow-off high?
Yeah.
Up here? Yeah.
It typically would happen, because you see when they tried to test that wick on the downside that one time, and that's super bullish when that fails, and that's when it failed. And I think top of the channel, we're 16.6 to 17.2 for end of the day. That would be a nice move today, would it not? So
yeah, and then I like the 4-hour. The reason why I like the 4-hour is because a lot of times you'll see basically when there's buying capitulation, and so when you get a large 4-hour bar like this, and these are going to get bigger now because volume's going to get more, but when you see that poke up like that, that's basically killing the equilibrium to where now the longs have the supply side. So that's like a capitulation of sellers there, and now it's just buyers coming in. And then even on a blow off top, like we had on this bar here, basically you have this large candle, and that's very typical. If you see a big move, and that's big, that's like that. This is a 4-hour bar, and you basically went from like under 15,000 to over 19,000. So that's a $4,500 bar. That's insane. And so, and that this volume here on the 4 hours, the highest I think I've ever seen at this level. So huge. That's a very obvious capitulation move. You can almost guarantee that you're going to consolidate after that or roll over a little bit. Ultimately, what we did was we more or less just consolidated. We had you could almost call that first thrust down off that wick, 1 move, 2 move, and then the 3rd move down. But when you saw these wicks come in, you saw volume. Now, typically on a 4-hour, the volume, when you get a volume around this level here, that's usually a lot of buying coming in. And you can see when these came down, you got those volume levels, and then so price would come up. But we didn't have any follow through. There were still more guys selling into it. Then you had another situation where the buyers came in here. That immediately tested lower. Okay, and then you had, these aren't super huge volume bars, but that's all buying right there. So the sellers kind of got it out of their systems there, and then the buyers stepped in. But then you also have to keep in mind Saturdays are typically a quiet day. But what happens on Sunday is Asia markets wake up, and they open about 7 p.m. Eastern, but 8 p.m. Eastern is usually when all the rest of the Asian markets open up, and then now we start seeing this move up. So if you go back and you look at different Sundays, very bullish moves happen from 8 p.m. Eastern on. And this, what we've been seeing lately is it's been running through all three sessions. So it'll be very telling tomorrow morning during the U.S. session where we're at. If we're right back toward highs, it could be a very explosive week.
Yeah, and it looks like over 16,000, we climbed the steps, Phil, to new highs.
Yep.
I mean, that volume profile thing could be more close.
No, I agree.
Hey, flip over to Litecoin because, what a hell of a move it had. And, I've been watching it, trading it. I threw a video out because I've been watching it from a fib line perspective. And I said, man, I think it's going to hit 133. And it ripped right through it and actually even hit the next level of fib. And we're joking, in the comment section, somebody said, well, I hope it hits 200 by 2018. I said it may hit it by Sunday, and it got all the way up to almost there, like 190, 196 or 197 area. It's bull flagging too right now as well, Phil, on the daily.
All right, let's check that out. One thing I wanted to point out to you guys was usually when you get a parabolic move like we've seen, this is a weekly chart, but basically parabolic means you're just going to start going into an arch and then you're going to go straight up, and that usually is a large blow off top. So last week we hit the parabolic curve and we just immediately came back down, and so this week that number is 24,000. If we hit that or start going above, I would expect to see something similar to what we saw here, but that would be exceeding the arc that we've been working on for so long here. So just something for you guys to keep in mind as far as levels of overheating if we see that this week. And look, I mean, we did that last week. We had a very large weekly bar. The low on this was 10,950. The high was 19,697. So, $9,000 bar, almost. And so it's very, now that you got the volume coming in, and you see the volume here on the weekly, that was the highest weekly volume we've ever had. Anyway, we'll flip over to Litecoin. We'll check that out. So let's go LTC USD. I think that's what most everybody wants to see it in dollar terms.
It looks more like Phil.
If you don't want to get into Bitcoin and, for whatever reason you want to just be Litecoin, that's fine. I think Litecoin has a lot of upside in dollar terms, but does it outpace BTC in terms of growth? That's another question. This is a 4-hour chart. So basically, what we've seen now, we had this breakout move, which we kind of called for. We had a Fibonacci target here of about 120, which we totally crushed that. And that was from a $50 entry. So in USD terms, guys that were in that trade from back then saw a 100% increase, in dollars on that trade. So basically what we're looking at here is we had a pretty fast blow off move on Friday. It was kind of weird, just out of nowhere after all the markets were closed. Now what we have is a bounce here in this fib zone, and we've got a really nice 4-hour buy shaping up here. So I expect we'll see this to just go back up like that, and the test here is going to be for Litecoin is going to be if it will get back above this level here. This is kind of, excuse me. So if we can get back above 175, essentially, bulls are back in the control the way I measure it. We may consolidate in between these two fib zones. You see that a lot, and that can Litecoin. If there's one thing about Litecoin, it'll move up and consolidate for a while. So it could spend a month in here. If things have really changed, this will move higher, right away. That's how you can tell things have totally shifted in the world of Litecoin. And over the course of this next week, we'll see a move up to 223. But historically speaking, Litecoin likes to move up, consolidate, move up, consolidate. So we'll see if that trend continues.
Yeah, and Next seems to be sympathetic to any Bitcoin move too. It looks like as well.
Which one?
Next.
NXT.
Yeah.
We certainly can look at that. Bitcoin Cash, I just accidentally brought it up, but the thing with Bitcoin Cash too, you guys have to understand is like a lot of market cap that otherwise would have been in Bitcoin was held up in Bcash. And so if you were to take, let's do a comparison. Let's do BTC USD on Coinbase. Okay. Look at that. Totally correlated, totally inversely correlated. So a lot of guys that are holding Bcash, they might just be like, you know what, I'm out. 'Cause a lot of guys could still be profitable here with Bcash at these levels, but they're just saying, you know what, I'm out. This is going down and Bitcoin's going up, and they basically capitulate out of their position. But that's another thing too, is never mind all the volume coming or market cap coming into this space. You've also got market cap tied up in forks that once those start unraveling, we'll push this back up higher. I think forks at the end of the day are going to just kind of go away because they're just going to be guys. It's a quick money grab for the guys that do the forks, but they're going to see less support on exchanges and things like that. So I think that phenomenon will self-correct. Take a look at NXT.
It's more curiosity than anything else. I just noticed that whenever Bitcoin gets a move, NXT seems to want to follow it. So
no, that's good, because the reason why that's good is that yeah, that's a real healthy looking chart in dollar terms for NXT. Really healthy.
Yeah, this is the one I play around with and just test my various trading signals with. It moves around a lot, so you get a good chance to.
No, it's really good. In fact, if we look at NXT BTC, that's what I measure. I like to measure things in Bitcoin terms. So if you look at NXT BTC, this is one of the few that actually grows against Bitcoin. There are precious few that can do that. And get rid of this comparison.
Wow, looks beautiful.
I mean, you're hard pressed to find any alt that does that. Now, it kind of had the bear market like every other one. And here's the thing, like if you look from back in basically the rise of alts back in April, May, this really hasn't gone anywhere. However, that being said, that is a really good move up, considering. Because you have to think, in this last couple of weeks, we've just had just a major bullish push in Bitcoin. So for this to be doing what it's doing here, that's one of the few that's doing that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Alts are best on a swing trade basis at this point.
Yeah, well, I take your advice. Just take profit and then.
No, that's what you do, and it's a good way to grow your Bitcoin stash. But you can't. I don't think the environment, definitely, until you get into an environment where you're back to this mode here, where you got a nice bull market, and actually the market that was very much like most coins. You just had this big parabolic rise, and then it kind of blew off. But then Bitcoin, the growth of Bitcoin just took off. So if you're looking at it in Bitcoin terms, you could look at most of the altcoins, and they're going to show that this up and then this bear. And a lot of this stuff in here, guys, was all fork related, because everybody was consolidating out of alt into Bitcoin because they weren't sure what was going to happen. SegWit 2x, SegWit, Bitcoin Cash forked. Everybody wants to grab those allocations so that they can, it's basically like a Bitcoin dividend. So now that we're the post fork era, you kind of saw an immediate pop on some alts, but then lately, like, if you look at Ethereum in BTC terms, it's not pretty.
No, it's not.
But it hit some of our dollar price targets. But that's a major bear market right there. But again,
yeah, it had a big blow off yesterday, and it just gave it all back.
Yeah, big Ethereum. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I mean, a lot of people question the whole going back and with the DAO debacle and that guy able to steal all that Ethereum from the DAO, and then they went back and forked it to delete that. It's kind of a slippery slope when you start doing that, because blockchains, that's the whole point. You're not supposed to be able to go back and rewrite history. So I don't know. And then you've got Rootstock, right? So that's also built on the Solidity programming platform, and now that's going on the blockchain for Bitcoin. And so you're going to basically have essentially an Ethereum equivalent platform running on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it'll be interesting to see how all that transpires over time. You just don't know. But I'm always one of those guys that says follow the economy. The economy is Bitcoin, and if you try to outguess that stuff, you're going to get hammered. So kind of a wait and see is what I'm saying. But Ethereum, looked like it was going to start this next leg higher. We did have a $520 in the room. 520 was a target we had, and now we're just kind of consolidating, really.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too. I mean, 2018 is going to be a really interesting year, Phil. I mean, all the use cases are just Bitcoin is kind of like Amazon. All the use cases everybody else has, Bitcoin's going to incorporate, and there's going to be no need for any of these other coins.
Right. So with Ethereum price action wise, guys, if you're looking at dollar wise, this box here is what I'd be looking for. Any breach on this box is going to signal the next leg higher. Okay. If it breaks down, you're probably going to go back to 300, because that's a lot, like where a lot of the price volume support is. That would be pretty bearish though. That's, if this stuff's all going to move up and market cap flows into crypto, this shouldn't be breaking down. So it might be a sentiment shift if that happens. We won't know until it happens and plays out, but
yeah, we need to clear 467 area. That seems to be a resistance line with that flag.
Cats killed ETH. CryptoKitties did kill ETH. The network is horrible. It's so slow. I mean, that's like a good idea, right? That's like, what was it? Tamagotchi, right? Remember those in the egg, right? They were in the egg, and you open the egg, it was a digital pet. That was cool. And, now throw that on the blockchain so you can't counterfeit kitties, right? If you're into that game. But it's a cool game. That's a cool blockchain game, I think. But as with those games like Pokemon and whatever else, you can get a pretty rabid fan base pretty quickly, especially in the internet age. And it just crippled the network. Like, just huge transaction times, decentralized exchanges like Ether Delta, crawling to a halt. I mean, just, that's not good. They're supposed to be scaling better than that. So I remember when I got my first Ethereum transaction was from Mike in the room, because I had lent him a Bitcoin, part of a Bitcoin, because Coinbase took so long to get him his Bitcoin. So he says, he goes, how about I pay you back in Ethereum? I said, that's cool, because I don't have any yet. This is back earlier in the year. And the transaction was almost instantaneous. And I was like, this is pretty cool. That's, fast. And then it's just never, ever been like that ever since, when all the volume and everything came on. So it's not keeping up with the scaling demands. That'll be interesting to see it with Rootstock. People start going there for their smart contract applications or their distributed apps, how they handle the scaling. It sounds like because of kind of they've been able to watch Ethereum, they have a pretty good handle on that. So you really don't know until things really start going live in the wild and really start dealing with the real world volume. But definitely you got to keep your eyes on all this stuff because it's going to have financial impacts. The other thing with Rootstock, there's no RSK token. It just operates on Bitcoin, right? So, like Bob was saying, it goes back to use cases. So if you have a single use case for your token or whatever, and it's able to be built on top of existing tokens like Bitcoin, then there's a problem there because you might be, your days might be numbered as that coin. Litecoin and Bitcoin, they're working on they'll be able to do like confidential transactions. So then you start looking at Monero, and its claim to fame is discrete, private, untraceable transactions, but that functionality can be built into Bitcoin and Litecoin too. So it's just something that we're always keeping tabs on, part of our service. And if you guys are invested in these things and you want to take long-term investments, you really have to keep on top of what's developing, because some of these developments will nullify a long-term use case for some of these coins. And I'm thinking with 2018, you're going to be surprised at how many coins don't make it really through the year, or they just drop off, or their networks get abandoned. Nobody's mining them. Their nodes disappear. That kind of stuff. Nobody wants to hear that, but it's highly likely you're going to see some consolidation because of just use cases or lack thereof this year. Last year was kind of a mania. Everybody's buying whatever. I think that's going to clean up a bit this year.
Yeah, look, people don't know my background, but I spent 20 years in the software business, in the cloud business, and before it was called the cloud. And my job was strategic planning and M&A work. And at one point, about 16 years ago, we decided to never write any more software. It was just easier and cheaper for us to simply wait for the winner and go acquire them, and then bring them into our portfolio. And then very quickly, everybody else fell away because we were one of the two gorillas in the market. And that's what's going to happen here too. You always get a plethora of new entrants into a space, and unless your use case, or what we called it, distinctive competence, is so unique and so compelling and so well backed that the gorilla is just going to roll you. And we're already seeing who the gorillas are, right? So, Bitcoin's the king, and it's good to be the king. So, we used to always say, you never get wrong by hiring IBM. And so that's the approach it's going to have here too. Bitcoin has the first mover advantage, and developers are going to flock to the number one or the number two. And it really is. Once you get past number one and number two, anybody else is really not worth it investing in. So that's what you're going to see in 2018, because everybody that's running systems, or blockchain systems, or adopting systems, or buying into these protocols, are just going to go with one or two because they can't stretch their IT departments. And so I think 2018 is going to be an amazing shakeout of all these millions of coins. So it's always good to run with the winner. You'll know if Bitcoin's not going to be the winner. Okay, you'll see it coming before it happens. So until then, you run with the big dog.
All right. So somebody asked about Vertcoin, and pretty bullish setup here in dollar terms. So this is a Vert USD. So we're at about $8.16 here. Vert has a lot of good attributes to it. When you start looking at Vert, and then you look at Litecoin, and then you start looking at Bitcoin with Lightning Network, we start getting redundant. I do like Vertcoin. I mean, I like the functionalities of it. I just don't know how necessary it will be when we start seeing Lightning Network nodes fire up on the Bitcoin network. Not to say you can't trade it, because you can. But right now, what I'd say here, guys, is that we have a little bit of a kind of a bull flag kind of shape going on here. Not kinda, sort of, but definitely looks like you get into this bounce zone here. That's going to take us to 1229 on the upside. So that's if you look at it in dollar terms. Now, if you look at it in Bitcoin terms, right? So which is a lot of times what you're going to buy it. You're going to buy it with Bitcoin, right? So if you look at that.
Not so much.
What happened? What happened? So you get a lot of like weird, like a lot of, it's an ugly chart. There's no other way to put it. It's an ugly chart. But if you look at this though, there's a lot of volume. People are buying it in Bitcoin, but a lot of volume here. But if we break this level here, guys, this 00041, there's not a lot of volume below that. Probably going to take us back down to prior support levels down here. And in the meantime, though, it could be going up in dollar terms. But if you're using Bitcoin to buy it, you're going to lose. Even though you'll be up in dollar terms, you're losing out in Bitcoin. And, if you look at the odds, having Vertcoin versus having Bitcoin, who's going to be around in 2 years, Bitcoin's the odds-on favorite. So do you hold Vertcoin, even though it goes up in USD terms, but loses against Bitcoin? You lose, say you lose 20% in Bitcoin, and you go to convert back out of it, because you think, well, maybe as things progress, Vertcoin's just not really taking off. So you convert back into Bitcoin, but you're down 30% in Bitcoin. You lost 30% of your Bitcoin holding it. So you got to look at both sides of that. Don't get caught up in the dollars only. And that's what we look at, and that's what we look at in the room, and that's how we base our setups. Because a lot of guys will say, "Oh, I called this and it went up." Da da da. Yeah, that's great, but guess what? If you held it that whole time against Bitcoin, and Bitcoin ripped from 5,000 to 18,000. And nothing else matched it, so you lost out. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, you're running up an escalator that's going down.
Exactly.
Yeah, Praveen, you asked about Litecoin. When you say correction's over, it just hit all-time high. So
here, we'll look at that. So again, I know a lot of people are in Litecoin in dollar terms because basically you got to look at what can you buy with dollars, and typically that's for most people. Coinbase, that's Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. So I know everybody's kind of looking at their portfolio in that view. So essentially what we're looking at here, guys, is really quickly, I do suspect that we got a 4-hour, technically we're in a 4-hour buy mode. So this is probably going to come up. Key for me here, guys, is if it breaks 175. If it fails to do that and it rolls back over, we're probably going to consolidate for a while. All right. LTC in Bitcoin terms had a nice run up. We were, you were able to, if you were holding it after the fork stuff, it moved up, consolidated, and then rolled over hard as Bitcoin moved. And this happened to a lot of coins. Rolled over hard, but then Bitcoin was kind of like having its last couple of days of consolidating, and a huge amount of buying came in Friday, so popped it back up. For me, as you can see over time, the Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio has eroded, and we really haven't seen, except for back in September, ever since that pop in September that took Litecoin almost to $100, it's just been pretty bearish. So we need to see some sustained move higher in Litecoin, but it's going to require it to grow really fast. I mean, it's going to have to do a pretty fast run into the 300s if it's going to maintain value or grow in value in Bitcoin terms. So can it? I don't know. If it announces a big deal, like say it has a partnership with some big company for payment, that could definitely help and definitely happen. So I'm not, doors open. I just say let's see what it does first. If it does get another move up, then we might be onto something here. But you don't want to be hanging on to alts. You want to be swing trading them, and you want to keep tight stops because if they stop growing or they start going sideways, Bitcoin's just the monster, right? So you gotta be very careful in if you're interested in keeping your Bitcoin value. If you don't care and you're just caring about dollars, then none of this really matters to you. But that's not. You want to be measuring yourselves against the king of crypto. So it's all about Bitcoin terms. That's going to give you the most value. That's just the truth.
Yeah, agreed. And we have about 10 minutes or so here. Somebody asked about Cardano. I don't follow it, Phil, so I really can't comment.
That's ADA Cardano. It's an interesting project. ADA in Bitcoin terms doesn't look that hot. Kind of a scallop move lower here. Again, not looking as strong as Litecoin in Bitcoin terms. You could do ADA in USD. and they don't even have it in USD. No tethers against that. So you're basically just looking at Bitcoin to get it. And so my thing with that would be, I don't know that it's gonna, I mean, it's coming into a buy here on the 4 hour. 4 hour buys are usually pretty powerful, although here it kind of just got pegged and never really recovered. That being said, it did come up off an up move. So here's what you're looking at basically. You guys are interested in Cardano. These are the levels I would look at. So you're gonna have a top here, and so this is kind of like, so you can see where price bounced off this. This is a short zone, and now that puts this 379 satoshis into play as a downside target. If you're hoping this is going to hold, what you need to see is this. You need to see this level hold, and it's barely hanging on. So bears are about to take over this thing. This doesn't look very bullish to me, and considering what Bitcoin's about to do this week, looks like this is probably going to thrust a lot lower, guys. So I'm not liking that chart at all. Monacoin, hang on, let's look. Yeah, that's pretty good. Actually, it's got a bull flag set up, so that's, yeah, pretty bullish chart here, guys. Holding the buy zone, so that would take us to this. If this bull flag holds, so you're looking at essentially this more or less. So you're going to watch the price action. Once we break above this area here, then you're looking for a target of $26. That's in dollars. If you look at it in Bitcoin, I'm actually curious what it looks like in Bitcoin. Pretty big move up against it actually last week in Bitcoin terms, so that's pretty impressive, I must say. If we look at the large range though, so now, see, this is the problem I'm seeing. Like thing with alts right now is like you get these pops, right, and you have to take profit because you've lost. You peaked out at 175k Satoshi. Now you're down to 8,800. So that's 50% off the high. And that's the problem. They're not. None of these are holding their gains against Bitcoin. So it goes back to the market that we're in. And you got to be nimble. And then so now you're kind of looking at, does it hold this kind of sort of trend line that we got here? That's kind of rough. But if it doesn't, then I think there's done some down. That trend line right there breaks. Good night. It doesn't look good. BTC target today? The moon. No.
You're asking the wrong guy for trading in and out of Bitcoin. Phil's you have to pry the Bitcoin out of his cold dead hands.
No, you know what? No, you would be getting long here because now you're breaking out of this. Basically, what happens is we came up. Okay, look. So we came up here, guys. Then we retraced, got into our bounce zone here. This is going to complete here at 16,540. Now, depending on how bullish the bears are, depending on how bullish the buyers are, okay, the bears are probably going to step in here and throw in some supply. I suspect we'll get down here, but the key for me is going to be this 17,330 level. This is on Coinbase or GDAX. Once we bust above that, we're going to bust back out of this old school channel, and then it's on, Now, okay, now I would look at where, so if you're in this swing move here, if you bought here, your swing target is 16,540 and you get out, then you wait for the next setup. But if you're looking at like where this could possibly go this week, then we go back to our parabolic chart, right? And I think every time we run into this arc, so we're not quite, this could still go. This could still go we could get into this 30-40,000 range, okay? And before we see a more on a weekly, this doesn't even look like a blow off top. A blow off top on a weekly would have a huge wick. I mean, at the rate this is going, that would be like a $10,000 wick.
Yeah.
And
it's like it's cleared all the congestion except for the blow off wick, and you know it's going to test that. It's these technical analysis says they're going to test that to see if it's a true selling point. And so, if you're looking just to do a quick trade and get out, then put it just below the double top. But if it blows that double top, there's no volume. You're in uncharted territory. Then, Phil, don't you put together your fib lines again from this next low and start retracing it out higher?
Yeah, well, to me, when we start getting into these moves, to me it's about bouncing into this parabolic curve. And so this week's point of attack is going to be 24,000. So if we get above 24,000 this week, that's overheated. It'll be overheated on several different ways that we measure it, but that one would be overheated. And we could, in theory, see the same kind of price action for the next couple of weeks. I think we have 2 more weeks definitely of bullishness. But if we did the same thing we did this week, came up, hit it, and then this week we just started going like bonkers over 30, yeah, you're probably going to see a 1 to 2 week consolidation possibly. But we're in uncharted territory, guys, and we're starting. Look at the weekly volume is ramping up. You think this is high volume on a weekly now? We haven't even really got into the institutional flows. We're starting to. I believe we've started to see that now. It's just starting. But I think this is going to turn a lot of technical analysis on its head, and you have to start looking at things in a little bit different way. You have to understand how parabolic moves work. You have to understand Bitcoin historically has been an episodic hyperinflationary thing. So you go through periods of hyperinflation, and everybody says, "Oh, it's a bubble." It's not a bubble. That's just looking at it fractally. You got to step back and look at the big picture. Now we're gonna have serial blow-off moves, I believe, like we just saw with 19,000. Doesn't even register on the weekly chart that much, but if you look at it on the daily, that's a blow-off move, or a 4-hour, that's a blow-off move. So get used to very volatile moves. Get used to big wicks, thousands of dollars. It's perfectly normal. I'm looking for, if we do start getting into a larger parabolic type thrust higher, you're going to start seeing this stuff here that we measure on the 4-hour start shrinking. This is a 31% pullback. Look for 20% pullback and then a 10% pullback, and it's going to just spin tighter and tighter until it climaxes and blows off. Then you're going to have then you have a consolidation period. You'll have more headlines saying that Bitcoin's a bubble and it burst. And they're just not really comprehending what we're dealing with here. And it's a very finite supply and a monstrous demand.
Yeah, I mean, look, the opportunity is to buy a piece of property in the Hamptons. There's only so much ocean frontage, and so people will pay anything for these properties just to have it. So, and they have no use case other than vanity. This is the new language, of the 21st century, and you're going to have to be able to speak this language with holding a Bitcoin token to be able to play and trade. And so it's not an asset, it's not a currency, it's literally a new language in a new country, and you're going to have to know that language to be able to operate in this new country called decentralized blockchain. And so that's why any analogy is worthless anymore. It's going to find a place where you're going to know when it really hits it. It's going to puke up a lot of sellers. So you'll see big volume bars when it reaches a point where somebody says, "Okay, I'm unloading." Until it does that, then it's going to keep trying to find sellers by moving up higher. So, it's just an amazing thing. I mean, I'm blown away personally by the moves. It's just incredible.
Chris Ross, blow off. I'll get to some of these questions here before we go. Chris Ross, blow off move is going to look like in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin Because what happens is, like right now, you see on the exchange, you see like this buy volume, sell volume, right? Okay, so what you're going to see on a blow off move is this evaporates. And the reason why it evaporates is because they literally cannot produce Bitcoin to supply the move. And it's going to run up, it could run up $10,000 in like an hour or less. I mean, it's going to be moves no one's ever seen before. It's going to be monstrous. And you're going to see big volume come in. It's going to blow out stops. The blow off, the first big blow off move we have on this, I mean, you guys have to really temper your expectations, but I mean, don't be surprised if the thing ran up. And I'm not kidding. By March, if it ran up to 100 grand, and I know that sounds crazy, but if you step back and you look at price projections, that could be the first major top. And it wouldn't even be the top. It would just be a major top where you'd have a long consolidated period after that. Because what happens when you move up that fast, there's not a lot of time for price to establish a support base in terms of volume. And what I mean by that is if you look at, we can look at a daily chart. Sometimes you'll get up there and there's no support. You get these, what we call volume pockets. And so like right now, comparatively, like there's a ton of volume right under the 5,000 base. But that's because it was a slow move up. So a lot of, that right there tells you a lot of money came in, and a lot of people are highly profitable right now because of all this accumulation in here. Now, what's going to be interesting to see is that as we move up, you see how we've got these nodes that appear. So right now, like between 15,500 down to like say 12,000 roughly. That's what we call kind of a air gap in volume. So not a lot of transactions happened there. Like the supply wasn't there, and it just moves right up through. Then supply shifted up here. Okay, so if there was like, whenever we see a big correction, the first thing we're probably going to do is we're going to go back, look at wherever we are at that point in time, and we're going to see where all the volume nodes are. So this is a volume node here. That's a volume node. That's a volume node. That's a volume node. You're going to see that all the way up the ladder. Okay. We'll see volume nodes here. Oops. We'll see volume nodes here and here as we go up. That's just what's going to happen, guys. So that's where when we start moving way up, we're going to start looking at that as far as realistic points that are going to be technical support, and where we probably would see a bounce. So if we keep this grind higher, we're going to see less and less pullbacks in percentage terms, 10 to 20%, 5 to 10%, and then to me, I think that'll spin out and will compress so tightly it'll spin out. Then we'll see a larger pullback, maybe as high as 50%, and that could be anywhere from 60 to 100,000, and then back you're basically going to cut the value in half. Everyone's going to say Bitcoin died, it blew off, bubble, blah blah blah. Promise you that's not going to be the case. It's going to continue to make a new high probably later in the year.
Yeah, and you'll see volume come in on a blow-up move because, you have to understand, this market is kind of opaque in the fact that you never know when somebody's going to sell. There's no like a brokerage where you're positioning trades or you're positioning stops and limits. You have so many different exchanges, and people are holding a lot of coins off the exchange, and somebody could just come in and say, you know what, 90,000. I'm a happy person, and all of a sudden they just dump a bunch of coins on the market. And so you'll start seeing volume popping in too, and then those areas start become resistance, and then you just have to look at retrace levels, or like Phil said, you look for these volume ledges that have been support before because a lot of people bought there to see if it holds. So, but you're ahead of yourself. I agree with Phil. Is that kind of enjoy the ride right now. It's bullish, and the fact that it's coming into the it broke out of all of that all those trades except for the blow off wick is I don't know, Phil, that's bullish to me. If this was like a gold chart and you showed this to me, I'd be like I'm holding because it's going to new highs.
Yeah, so guys, this is basically I was just trying to get the volume read here. So we've traded about 1,000 futures contracts, that's minimal.
Yeah.
That's nothing. So a lot of actually, you guys are talking about, this is the futures chart I got up, guys. this, if you're on Thinkorswim, it is XBT slash XBT, and that's the futures. So it's very little volume right now. You know, like I said, I think as we get into the week and exchanges open tomorrow, you'll probably see a big uptick in volume in this stuff. But it's going to allow the institutions to start taking positions, and you know, like I said, things like even the Square Pay app or these other pay apps, they have to have Bitcoin to sell you if you want to buy, because they're acting like an exchange. But if they buy a chunk here, they're afraid of price going against them. They can short it on the futures to hedge that position, and it keeps the volatility down for them. Same with funds, risk parity funds, things like that. They now can measure their risk exposure. So that's why watch toward the end of the month. The volume on Bitcoin, I think, is going to be pretty eye-opening. I think it's going to be big volume coming in here.
I agree. And a lot of guys, you guys ask a lot of questions that you probably didn't see the questions from before. So you got to circle back and watch the video. We kind of rolled over Vertcoin and IOTA. So just circle back on those things. And
IOTA, I will say this: all of a sudden, their exchange, or not their exchange, but their network's been really laggy. I think guys were complaining that they had upwards of like 17-hour wait times on confirmation. So they're trying to get their coin to the exchange. If it's on the exchange, you can trade it, buy it, sell it, no problem. But the problem is getting it to the exchange and getting it off the exchange. And for some reason, the nodes aren't confirming the transactions. Not exactly sure why, but there's a lot of unhappy people with regards to IOTA. You know, regarding that. Chris Ross, thanks, man. Appreciate the support.
Oh, cool. Hey, in case anybody's interested, natural gas gapped up, and it's holding the gap, and it looks like, just like it's done the last 2 months in a row. You know, they basically pushed the selling as hard as they could down to that support line, and we had a nice 2.5% move up. I know it sounds almost pointless to talk about it because Bitcoin does that every 15 seconds. But,
well, but there's people that can't. You know, if you have a 401k, that's the stuff you want to be in, because you can't until crypto, like, you can just buy Bitcoin with your 401k, or if you have a self-managed 401k, which a lot of people have, like a retirement account that they manage, like in Schwab or something like that. So like what you're talking about, I mean, we still got to deal with it, right? We still got to deal with that side of the market.
Yeah, I'm just making fun, but yeah. So if Phil, can I take control for a minute, then we can wrap up.
Yeah. So you want to show them the natty gas?
Because I have the magic channel on here.
Let me hold on, guys. I'm gonna switch us over to Bob's screen. Yeah. Okay, Bob. So go ahead and share your screen, and I'll flip it.
Yeah, I have it on already.
Nope.
I don't?
I just see you.
Oh, really?
In the meantime, I'll bring up the...
Hold on a second.
So a lot of times, guys, if we see a shift in natural gas, we'll hop on the...
Here we go.
UGAS ETF. Okay, there you go. All right, I'm going to give this over to Bobby. He's going to talk you through natural gas. I know you guys we're switching gears a little bit here, but if you have stock portfolio, you might want to check out what he has to show you here. Check this out.
Yeah, so the last 3 months we've had these big moves off of 276, and I'll dial out here in a second, but my expectation was after they pushed it down into the report on Thursday that we're going to start making a move higher, and Friday was slightly an up day. Fridays on natural gas tend to be pretty boring unless there's some expectation of really big weather changes over the weekend. And we got the pop we wanted here, and now what we're going to do, and this is volatility channels here, and this is looking back 2 days, and what you want to see, especially when you're day trading, is you want to see it in between the purple and the red area here, and have it moving, and this tends to be a good bumper. The thing I like about it though is it's trending up. So by morning, for me, I'm in Pacific time. You know, if I roll out of bed here at 4 in the morning, which I typically do, this line here could be well over 292 or 293, and this thing may ride that ridge all the way up. The weather reports have been consistently wrong in terms of warmth, and now they're calling for cold weather all the way through the end of the year. And the game that they've been playing with natural gas is that anytime somebody would broadcast a 10-day to 15-day outlook, if it showed any warming in the east, the shorts came in and hit it really, really hard. Well, all those reports have been wrong. And now those guys are going to have to start covering because storage levels are down. And there's a site I put on the video I did earlier today that says fair value for natural gas is right now going into January. Fair value is at $3.50, declining down to $3.20 as you get into the spring. So this is extremely undervalued, and it's why I've been holding and holding and holding, and I think we're going to get validated. We were early last month too, and we all made money on the trade if you stuck with it. And I think people are going to be really pleasantly surprised when they see nat gas here by Christmas. And let me just pull out to an hourly here real quick. Here we go. So this changes every day, but this hit a bar down here when it washed out this low here, and this is a 12-month low. And so now my expectation, my next move up here is to get to 290, and then just like trading Bitcoin is, you're looking for the gaps and you're looking for the ledges, and so I wanted to get through this gap, get to here, and then climb to this one here, and then once it does that, you see it's so far below what they call the value area. This is where 70% of all trading occurred by volume in the last 20 trading days. So this move here was these moves here tend to get pushed back into the value area. So I'm expecting this all to get eaten up, and we're going to get back in close to $3 here pretty soon this week. And so that's not gas, and so I'm pretty bullish on it, and I think it's going to play out really well. And energy in it of itself is doing well. They've been talking about oil going down too, but oil keeps getting bid too. So any energy names, any nat gas names are all going to do well. And I'm seeing reports that uranium prices may turn around too. So I'm going to be taking a good hard look at that one as well. So, the name of the game for me is energy going into the end of the year. And I think I started dabbling into miners too. So we bought SILJ. 2 days ago we bought AG. That trade's already profitable. I don't know if it's ready for prime time, but we're going to get a move back up to what we call these purple lines here. I call these kind of like fair value short term. It's going to push up to these VWAP lines, and then if it breaks up, then it's going to break up to the next level. So all things commodity. I think cryptos for me is definitely the canary in the coal mine, because it can't be leveraged the other way with the futures markets, because they're not settling it in the product. And so it's foretelling a move out of financial assets and a move into hard assets. And make no mistake, crypto is the hardest of all the assets because of its the scarcity factor. And right behind it is gold, silver, and energy names. And you're going to see all of them start to move as the central banks and the governments get scared, and they just keep printing. So, but nat gas to me is purely a play into January. And if it stays cold in January, we'll see a double in nat gas. And if you trade futures on nat gas, you'll see crypto kind of returns, when it goes from $3 to $6 here in the next 60 days. And so that's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities by February 1st for nat gas, a double from here. So anyway, Phil, that's all I have to say. I think you covered cryptos extremely well. And you guys it looks like we have a few more people than we had on Saturday mornings. Can I just see a quick show of hands? Do you guys like Sunday evening better than Saturday lunchtime, or do you guys have a preference? We want, this is your time, so we want to definitely help as many people as we possibly can. And then also too, if you like what we do, if you're not already a subscriber, we have some killer specials right now. You could join all the rooms. You could join just the crypto room. You can join, get the software that we put on, that you see the buy and sell signals on. And we have courses on trading and crypto trading. And then you can even get personal coaching from myself on the stock side, or with Phil and some other people on our team on the crypto side. So we just have killer specials running to the 15th, and we want to get as many people, with us as possibly can, so that we all can get through this together, because it's definitely an us against them fight in my view, and I want every one of us to win.
Yeah,
any final thoughts from you, Phil?
and the crypto game, a lot of people don't understand it, and we've been in it. I've been in it for years, and it's ever evolving, and it really does take a lot of time to grasp. I mean, it quite literally changes by the week, if not by the day sometimes. And so if you are jumping into the space and you don't know what you're doing, or you pick like an altcoin, that's not, you're not doing yourself a favor. So check out what we do. I think you're going to be pretty pleased. We've got a really good room. It's always open. Pretty good vibrant community in there as far as crypto traders and crypto holders, and lots of good discussion in there. So if you don't know how to use an exchange or whatever, you can pop in there, and somebody will tell you exactly what to do, that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah. So Bitcoin's roaring higher. I think, like we said, during this broadcast, it would probably be moving up, and we're gonna close this out. But I think when we see this spike high here of what is this high, 16,300, guys, we see a move above that. Watch out. I think we're gonna see some pretty volatile movement up. Now you got to understand, we are 9:13 p.m. Eastern, so futures markets are going to, or I'm sorry, the Asian markets are going to go to about 2 a.m. Eastern. There's an hour gap, and then 3 a.m. Eastern, London opens, and you typically will see another buying surge around 5 a.m. Eastern. And a lot of that has to do, a lot of people don't realize this, but London has basically their version of an ETF is an ETN, and they have Bitcoin ETNs. And for some reason, we see a lot of money flow after 5 a.m. Eastern in the London European markets. And that's a very large market for Bitcoin. If you look at like where the Bitcoin nodes are around the world, high concentration on the East Coast, high concentration in Europe. And then we'll see what happens during the U.S. session. U.S. session, if there's any kind of selling or pullback, typically happens in the morning part of the U.S. session. But we'll see. If we have a repeat of last week, we'll have buying through all three sessions, and that would take us probably toward well back above into the 17s by tomorrow.
That's incredible.
It is. The movements on this is insane.
Yeah. Hey, Phil, thanks a lot for your time. I know it's still you still have some sunlight left where you live, but we're good time to wrap up here, I think.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I will put out a video today explaining the futures. Bob did too. Bob also has some videos out. So if you have any questions on the CBOE futures as far as how they're constructed and how they work, or the interactions and stuff like that, check out the video that we did. I'll put out a video tomorrow morning, kind of looking at price action and what we're looking at for the rest of the week. So thanks again for watching, guys. I'm out.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.